Hi folks, I hope you enjoy my lovely orange tree background today. I'm enjoying it a lot. I had a request this week to talk about parasites and parasite cleanses because parasite cleanses have become super popular recently. A lot of people are just going and doing parasite cleanses and talking about all the things they see when they do it and the relief of symptoms they're having, and a lot of practitioners are putting their clients on antiparasitic herbs. Anyway, there's just a lot of talk about it. So I wanted to give my perspective on the whole parasite cleanse thing. So, first of all, I think it's important to recognize that parasites are actually a totally normal part of the gut microbiome. Our gut microbiome is a complex ecosystem, and it is totally normal and natural to have bacteria, fungus, viruses, and parasites in your body at any given time. Normal part of the human ecosystem. And, as I've said about certain strains of bacteria that we usually think of as bad, when they test the microbiomes of people living in traditional contexts who are in excellent health, they almost always find parasites, right? So parasites have coexisted with humans, for millennia, and they're not inherently a bad thing to have in the body. In fact, people are actually introducing parasites into people who are having allergies or autoimmune issues. It's called helminth therapy, and it's basically using parasite eggs like a probiotic. And they're actually finding that it modulates the immune system and is really helping bring relief to people. So there are also practitioners who are actually giving their clients parasites in order to help their symptoms. So as everything, it's a complex topic. I would say when they're causing problems, it's because they have overgrown, right? They have taken up more than their fair share of space in the internal ecosystem. But it's also problematic or it can be problematic if we don't have any also, which is why some people are responding positively to introducing more parasites into their body. But too many or too few is going to be a problem, and a lot of people do have too many in their body. Now, the immune system responds to parasites through the histamine allergic response pathway, the same pathway that food allergies happen in. So, parasites are very commonly contributing to issues of histamine intolerance and other kinds of histamine related disorders. If I have someone who's coming to me with mast cell issues, with histamine issues, and also with like gallbladder, pancreas kind of issues, those parasites tend to really damage those digestive organs. They tend to live in the liver and pancreas, and are often coming through the gallbladder when the body detoxifies them, and they're often inside of gallstones. Often gallstones are little packages of dead parasites that have been wrapped up for us, or other toxins. Not always, obviously, but very commonly. So they can be related to damage in those organs, and then also any kind of systemic histamine issues. So this might look like allergies or anxiety or mood issues, hives, bloating, especially jaw tension, and then other neurological, just kind of weird neurological type of symptoms, twitching, things like that, tics, stuff like that, and then insomnia. Now, there's a lot of reasons you might have those symptoms. They're not always parasites, but it may be an indication, and especially if those symptoms are coming particularly at night, because parasites tend to be more active at night, and particularly if they're coming up around the full moon. If you tend to have cycling symptoms that seem to really flare once a month, it may be an indication that it's parasites, because parasites come out of the tissues and mate during the full moon. Otherwise, they're really good at hiding in our tissues. Sorry, plane overhead. And we can't always get to them very easily. The immune system can't always get to them easily, or they might be a little more dormant. But then they're active around the full moon, and then at night, and we may feel the effects more. There are a lot of interesting anecdotal case studies that clinicians have shared about also really bizarre behaviors being related to parasitic overgrowth. Really intensive risk-taking behaviors, violent, aggressive behaviors, or really extreme kind of yeah, I guess risk-taking behaviors would be the way to say it. Things that just don't seem to make sense, choices that people make that just don't seem to make sense or seem very irrational, or very bizarre ways to self-harm or to risk death. And the theory is that in order for some parasites to complete their life cycle, they need you to die. Basically, they need some other animal to eat your body and pass on. So we see this when there are certain mice, for example, or other animals that get hijacked by a parasite, and they will basically start going on a suicide mission until they get killed by a hawk, and then the life cycle of the parasite continues. So it is possible for parasitic overgrowth to cause some very intense, bizarre behaviors in certain cases. So it's something to consider. So, I always talk about how the immune system doesn't make mistakes, though, right? So, when I'm talking about parasites potentially causing all these problems, and sometimes very serious problems, you have to think about, why is the immune system allowing this, right? Why are these parasites there? And it's similar to the conversation about candida that I often have with people. Parasites feed on toxicity. There are some really interesting studies showing on sharks especially that it's sharks that have really high heavy metal toxicity that are often full of parasites, right? And we see that parasites can neutralize a lot of toxins, especially heavy metals. So if you have parasitic overgrowth, first of all, likely you do have imbalance in the immune system, right, that is having trouble regulating these things, or maybe they're completely there on purpose, and your body is overrun with toxins, also likely because you have immune system imbalance. And so we need to consider addressing the underlying toxicity, which is done by rebuilding the immune system and opening the detox pathways, primarily through nutrition, which is exactly what I do with clients. There is a very bizarre myth out there, I hear a lot, that parasites feed on meat, and they don't. They feed on sugar, actually. We know we can draw parasites out of the tissues by exposing them to sugar or giving them sugar to feed on, so that is going to be a problem. But being on a very protein-heavy diet is going to be optimal for trying to deal with parasites, and luckily there's a lot of protein in the diets that rebuild the immune system and open the detox pathways. So a lot of the nutritional work I'm doing with people have the potential to take care of an issue of parasite overgrowth anyway. You don't need to do anything extra. You just need to follow the protocol of rebuilding your immune system and opening your detox pathways, and your immune system will do any detoxifying and rebalancing of the microbiome that it wants to do on its own. So a lot of this stuff doesn't have to be directly addressed. You can just be addressed through the general holistic work of getting into better health. People do experience spontaneous purging of parasites when they embark on these healing journeys often. They don't need to take any antiparasitics, they just start seeing parasites in the toilet when they go to the bathroom. Now, not all parasites are visible to the naked eye, so you may be passing parasites without realizing it, but many of them are, and many people do see them coming out as they are healing. I have actually spontaneously purged parasites twice in my life that I am aware of. One was after going through heavy metal chelation. I went through IV chelation therapy twice, actually, but the first time I spontaneously started purging parasites. And I think it's because of what I was saying before, that I was getting rid of a lot of heavy metals through that process, and my immune system decided, okay, I guess we don't need these parasites anymore. So basically let them die off and leave the body. The second time was after that, when I transitioned into doing a low oxalate carnivore diet. Mostly carnivore diet, I should say. Again, I think this actually got at another layer of my heavy metal toxicity that I had accumulated. As I dumped oxalates, I released a lot of heavy metals that had been bound up with those oxalates. So many that I ended up having to go through the IV chelation therapy again. But in the meantime, just from that low oxalate carnivore diet, I spontaneously started seeing parasites purging again. And similarly, I think my immune system decided that I had lower overall toxicity levels and less need for parasites in my body as a protective mechanism. All of this being said, using herbs, antiparasitic herbs, to reduce your symptoms and bring some relief is sometimes a really beneficial thing. I don't usually like to do it right away because I like to see what the body can do first on its own. But especially if someone is having really debilitating histamine or mental health issues that I'm suspecting is related to parasites, I will bring it in sooner. Sometimes the immune system does need a little bit of help. It doesn't mean it's not smart, not doing good things on its own, but sometimes we can kind of gently nudge it in the direction we want it to go. And to be honest, the herbs associated with that are antiparasitics that I usually use, they're pretty gentle on the body. Now, they can trigger histamines. Any herbs can trigger histamines. I usually don't have my patients who are having like extreme histamine symptoms taking any kind of herbs. So, it's kind of this dance where the parasites may be partly causing the histamine intolerance, but the histamine intolerance is making you unable to tolerate the herbs that would get rid of the parasites. So we have to get the histamines balanced enough that the antiparasitic herbs can be tolerated, but at that point, they can be very, very helpful. Now, although the herbs that I use to kill off parasites are pretty gentle, there are some more intense plants that are also antiparasitics. And this is just a really interesting aside. But ayahuasca and many psychedelic plant medicines are actually very, very strong antiparasitics. And I have a hypothesis that some of the benefit people are getting from some of these practices is actually because they are getting rid of parasites through their purging process. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't also, psycho-spiritual benefits that people are getting from these experiences. I think they can be very beneficial for the right person. But I think some of it is actually physiological, that they are taking these extremely strong antiparasitics, purging all sorts of imbalance in their microbiome as they're going through the process, and then feeling a lot better afterwards. So just an interesting aside there. Okay, so as I said before, the herbs I use are pretty gentle on the body, and they target they target the worms pretty well, like pretty closely. So they're not going to kill off a lot of other aspects of your microbiome that you don't want to imbalance. Part of the reason I don't like using things like oregano oil is because they kind of act like an antibiotic where they just like kill off all sorts of things, right? But the ones you use for worms can be a little more targeted, which is nice. So I usually use wormwood, cloves, and black walnut. Those are the primary ones that I use, and I have people take them the week leading up and the week leading away from the full moon, several months in a row, sometimes up to 6 months, and then maybe once a year, just as kind of maintenance. That can be helpful if you have a long history with them. So those are the herbs I usually use, cycled around the full moon, when they're going to be targeted best. Most people say that the die-off from parasites is pretty mild. That was not my experience. It really seems to depend on the person, because I've heard that a lot, but my experience was very different. I did use antiparasitic herbs as I was lowering my histamine levels, preparing to go on the GAPS diet. I was far too reactive to go on the GAPS diet when I first started healing, even though I knew that's what was going to heal me in the end. So I had to basically prepare myself for about a year by doing a low histamine whole foods diet and just slowly increasing my tolerance for histamines over time. And I was almost a year into it, and getting close to the date, I was really hoping to start the GAPS intro, and I was still having more reactivity than I really wanted to, but a lot less than I was when I first started, and I decided that it was time to do a parasite cleanse because I had tested positive for them when I did a GI map. I knew I had them. I had all the classic symptoms. So I decided to use herbs to do it. My histamine levels were low enough I could tolerate some herbs at that point. And basically, what happened was that I would wake up in the middle of the night. This was maybe a week or two into the first time I took the herbs. Um, and I was having a systemic mast cell reaction. Really, really bad. One like I was having before I started healing at all. My symptoms had improved a lot over that year, and it was like back to like the throes of the worst of my symptoms I had experienced like the year before. So a dread attack. I've talked about these before. These are brutal. But basically, my heart was pounding. My stomach felt queasy and bloated and nauseated. I was sweating. I was hot. And I just had this overwhelming sensation that something was very, very wrong. Like something very, very bad was about to happen. And every time I would run to the bathroom and have a bowel movement, and it would just be full of parasites. And this happened to be multiple times. And honestly, after that, my histamine symptoms did stabilize a lot, stabilized enough that I was able to start the GAPS diet within the timing that I was hoping. I had given myself a year of like, okay, I'll stabilize my symptoms for a year, and then I'll start the GAPS intro. And I was getting up on that year and not where I wanted to be, and doing this parasite cleanse got me to where I wanted to be, so that I was low enough in my histamines that I could tolerate the meat stock, and I could do GAPS intro. It's not that I had no reactivity, but it was low enough I could manage it. And within 3 or 4 months then of going through GAPS intro, my histamine intolerance was almost completely gone at that point, and I was eating high histamine foods. I was adding ferments into my diet, all sorts of stuff like that. So I don't just by default do parasite cleanses with people, but it is something I keep in my back pocket. I think a lot of times the body can just, you know, do it by itself. It doesn't need our extra help, but sometimes a little boost can be helpful. And so it is something that I do use in appropriate cases, and, frankly, it did really help me in my journey as well. So strategically, they can be very appropriate, but not necessarily as a catch-all that it is being promoted as in some circles right now. So that's my personal experience and clinical perspective on parasites.